Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to my last, well, not my last NFL video of the year, because I'll have a wrap-up video, regardless if the Chiefs win or not. You're probably asking yourself, why am I wearing this Royals hat? It's because I can't find my Chiefs hat, and my hair is an absolute mess, and so I don't need my absolute mess of a hair on YouTube. So I'm sporting my Royals hat today, talking about the Chiefs. It's good enough, right? Right, Kansas City? It's good enough. Um, all right, so this is my Super Bowl preview video. Obviously, the Super Bowl is tomorrow. Today is February 11th. Super Bowl is tomorrow, February 12th. It has been a long season. This is what happens when you have 17 games in an 18-week regular season. Everything is extended by another week. So it's going to be almost Valentine's Day by the time we play the Super Bowl. That's crazy. Tomorrow is Lincoln's birthday, I believe, if I remember my third grade history correct. So never would have thought we would be playing football, the Super Bowl, on Abraham Lincoln's birthday. But here we are. So I'm going to switch over here to the other screen here in just a second and talk about a couple things that are that, that are somewhat interesting here about this game. I there. Excuse me. There's a couple things that have really been bothering me about the narrative leading up to this game, and so if you've been paying attention to any of the news, any of the sports media over the past couple weeks, you've probably heard everything that I'm probably going to say in this video. Maybe you're going to hear it with more of a Chiefs bias, a Chiefs homerism, so to speak. I try to present things as objective as possible. Of course, I'm always going to be slanted and biased towards the Chiefs. That's who I am. I'm a fan of a team, and I would expect Philadelphia fans to be biased for their team too, and to overlook flaws. That's what fans do. It's one of the reasons why it drives me crazy about politics, about people that treat Republicans or Democrats, their side like they do sports things. Like everything they do is great if it's their side, and if the other side, everything they do is bad. When in reality, that's not exactly the truth for politics. But that's a whole nother discussion. But that's fine to have that viewpoint in sports, because at the end of the day, sports ultimately doesn't matter too much. It's just something fun to do while we, pass the time between everything else in our lives that's going on. I really think that this game, it's being pitted as the two best teams in the NFL going up against each other. I would push back on that a little bit. Even though we have the two number one seeds, I think the top three teams are all in the AFC. And I would say that Philadelphia is fourth or maybe the fifth best team in the NFL. If that, they're here. They get all the credit for being here. This is a team I would much rather, as a Chiefs fan, face the Eagles than the 49ers, though. If the 49ers had a quarterback. The 49ers, to me, were just more of a complete team, a more known commodity. And I'm going to get into a little bit of that, of why I believe that, and offer up just some things that, I've been reading about, studying up on, and then hearing other people talk over the past couple weeks about this matchup. So I want to go over here and make sure I get the... yeah, I got it right here. So... can I move? Let's move my face. Oh, I needed to put this as how I thought the games would have gone, right? Okay, this was my prediction. Okay, starting way back when. So if you notice, the only games I missed, I picked the Cowboys to beat the 49ers, and I picked the Bills to beat the Bengals. It was interesting, though, on my Twitter profile, I found a pinned message to my profile. I totally forgot I made AFC predictions back then. I didn't make predictions on the NFC, but on January 8th, I made predictions for the AFC, and actually I picked the Bengals to beat the Bills that day. But I also have video on YouTube of me doing the exact opposite, and the video supersedes it came after the other message. So I'm going to be a man, and I'm going to stick with the Bills over the Bengals there. So this was my prediction. It's mostly correct. Obviously, I only had two of the four teams in the championship game right, but I did have both the Chiefs and the Eagles going on with the Chiefs winning. And so let me go ahead and just set the record straight here so we can get the. This is actually what the playoffs look like here, with the Chiefs going up against the Eagles, both number one seeds going here. So the big talk about this game, though, one of the topic lines is, the health of Patrick Mahomes. And Patrick Mahomes obviously played pretty well against the Bengals and had a really gutsy performance. And, at the end of the day, he made the plays he needed to make in order for the Chiefs to win against a team that matches up really well with the Chiefs. And the Bengals are just one of the best teams in the NFL. And, it took a lot for the Chiefs to overcome them and to pull off that victory. The Eagles, they've had a much easier road to get here. Facing the Giants, who dispatched the absolute frauds in the first round, the Vikings, had a negative point differential, but yet somehow won 13 games. That's not a recipe for sustained success. And the Giants won by a touchdown, and they got a lot of people excited. But the Giants are not a good football team, and they beat a bad football team. And give them credit for winning on the road. But they still beat a bad football team, and they're not a very good football team either, even though they were 9-7-1. Brian Daboll won Coach of the Year. Daniel Jones is still their quarterback. Man, Daniel Jones is not a very good quarterback, and their backups are even worse. And then the Eagles ran them out of the building because, like I said, the Giants are just not good, and they're not built, to withstand that attack that the Eagles had, that run option, that zone read run option offense. I did pick the Eagles to beat I picked them to beat the Cowboys. I thought the Cowboys were going to beat the 49ers in the divisional round. But when the 49ers moved on, I'm like, the 49ers, they could give the Eagles a game. The problem was that, that Brock Purdy blew out his elbow, on the second drive of the game. And then their backup, who was their fourth string quarterback, got injured and got a concussion and couldn't come back. And they couldn't throw the ball after that. Everything had to be handoffs. And you're not going to win any game in the NFL by doing that, at least not in 2022. So the Eagles got to play a really bad team in the divisional round, and they got to face a team that did not have a quarterback who could throw the ball. I mean, could not throw the ball. It's not like they chose not to. They could not throw the ball against them in the conference championship game. So they basically got a bye to the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, the Chiefs had a tough game against the Jaguars, against a team that was a lot better than I thought they were going to be. And of course, they had to deal with the injury to Patrick Mahomes in that game. The Chiefs won. The Chiefs controlled most of that game. They never trailed, just like they never trailed against the Bengals either. But they were both those teams are really, really good teams. And the Jaguars, I think they're gonna be a 12-13 win team next year. Look for them to, take off there. And obviously, I think they overtook Tennessee this year for the AFC South crown, and I think they're going to just continue to excel and to move up. The Chiefs and the Eagles. So we talked about the health of Mahomes. L'Jarius Sneed, he's out of concussion protocol now. He's back practicing, though he did get his knee banged up yesterday. At least according to the injury report, it said he was limited in practice to a knee injury, but that's all that was said. I fully anticipate him to play in the game. Mecole Hardman is out. He's on injured reserve, so he played like 3 plays against the Bengals, but then couldn't give it a go. Obviously, the Chiefs have been without him for 3 months. Not having Hardman there is, well, we haven't had Hardman there anyway, and we're still here. So not really concerned about Hardman being out. The Chiefs are healthy now. They are as healthiest as they're going to be, going up against the Eagles, who I think most of the people, at least in the national scene, seem to be giving the Eagles an advantage here, and they keep talking about the Chiefs' injury concerns. No one seems to be talking about the Eagles' injury concerns, and they're a lot more concerning. At least if I was an Eagles fan, I would be more concerned than what they're letting on. So let's talk about the first one. their offensive lineman, what is his name? I can't remember his name. One of their tackles, who basically is playing with a is it a torn bicep or a tricep or no groin? That's right. Playing with a torn groin or torn groin muscle or something to that effect. Not sure how he's going to play. I know there's another guy who has an elbow issue so on the offensive line. So their offensive line, which is supposedly by everyone saying is like the best offensive line that's ever been assembled in the history of man. I mean, I'm just going off of what people are saying on the internets and on the interwebs this week. I guess they're the greatest ever, and so poor little Chiefies aren't going to be able to do much against this great big bad wolf offensive line of the Eagles, right? Again, we're going to get to some of the reasons why some of these people think this in just a second, but the injury concern for the offensive line is there for the Eagles, but then the next biggest thing is the health of Jalen Hurts. Since Jalen Hurts has come back from his injury, and he's supposedly a running quarterback, he has rushed for 86 total yards in 4 games. Or is it 5 games? 4 games. I don't see that as anything to write home about. Jalen Hurts is definitely not himself. He's not fully healed. He's not fully back, and I really anticipate that he has a serious issue with his right shoulder. The guy cannot throw to his right. Since the injury, he cannot go to the right side of the field. And so now he doesn't have the arm strength of Patrick Mahomes or of a lot of different quarterbacks. So if you force him to the right and contain him, he's going to be forced to throw back across his body to the left, which makes it easy to get interceptions in that case. Look, if I notice that he can't throw to his right and he's favoring his shoulder because of the injury, he winces in pain. If you watch that 49ers game, watch that Giants game again, you'll notice the amount of time that he winces in pain when he throws the ball. The guy is not right, and he can only go to his left. The Chiefs have to, they know that. They have to take advantage of that. And you don't want to go out and try to injure somebody. But if someone's playing with an injury, you need to take advantage of it. That's just the way that the game is. And I think that, I'm not saying that Jalen Hurts shouldn't play in this game, because if Minshew plays, they have zero chance of winning. I think they don't have a great shot of winning anyway, which is contrary to what most people are saying. But the funny thing is that the Hurts injury doesn't seem to be getting the play nationally as Mahomes' injury is. And we've seen Mahomes play on his injury. He's still a tremendous quarterback. So I think that really plays against the Eagles. Now, I know that they want to run the ball, but like I said, since that injury, he's been more timid in running the football as well. The Chiefs linebackers are going to be key in this game in stopping that read option, that zone run option that they employ. Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. Now, Nick Bolton's better against the run than Willie Gay. Willie Gay's better in pass coverage. But it's going to take both of them. And it's going to take the Chiefs' corners, which they're probably going to be in nickel a lot. The Chiefs are going to have to rely on their corners to come up and make tackles, which is a good thing because they have good tackling corners. They've always been physical there, in the last 5 years or so. And these rookies they've got are no exception. They are good tackling. Now, they've had some games earlier this year where they were not the greatest at tackling, but the last 2 games has been a master clinic in how to tackle at the corner spot. McDuffie made a tackle last week on Jamar Chase in the open field that, held him to like a 4-yard gain. That when a play like that, when he can usually run through that tackle and pick up 15, 20 yards. And so that's one thing that's really been positive for the Chiefs, are those corners. And, Jalen Hurts can only go to his left or throw to his left. But when they run the ball, how are they going to do, when they run the ball? Look, if the Chiefs know they don't have to mess with one side of the field or at least force him to go one way, they can load up protection on another side, and they're going to spy somebody on Hurts all the time. Excuse me. Whether that's Bolton or Gay, I'm not sure which one. But then you have to consider with the injury concerns that the Eagles have on their offensive line. The Chiefs don't have dummies or rummies. I mean dummies. They don't have rummies on the defensive line. Obviously, they have what I should thought would have been Defensive Player of the Year, Chris Jones, on their defensive line, and then Frank Clark, who's a different player in the playoffs than he is in the regular season, and Karlaftis has been playing at a Pro Bowl level since the midway part of the season, since he's finally figured out how to. And I mean, he's a rookie. And has really come on down the stretch of the season. And Dunlap and Dana both are solid. And these guys are going up against some of the best teams in football all the time. Now, the Chiefs don't play the best teams every single week, but they play more of them than the Philadelphia Eagles have. And that gets to my next point about the competition that the Eagles have played. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I saying the Eagles are not a good football team. They made the playoffs last year as a 9-8 team, and they got the 7th seed, and they got waxed by Tom Brady and the Patriots. Tom Brady and the Buccaneers in the first round. Like I want to say it's 31-16 or 31-15, something like that. This year they're the number 1 seed. They won 5 more games than they did last year. The difference largely is Hassan Reddick. They brought him in. He was not on their team last year, but beyond him, their team is almost the same as it was a year ago. So what is the difference between a 9-8 team that looks lost and has no offensive consistency to this year where they bring in Hassan Reddick and the team wins 14 games? And Jalen Hurts, who finished second in the MVP voting, and I'm not exactly sure why I would have put Burrow and Josh Allen both ahead of Jalen Hurts. I mean, Hurts had a really, really great season running the football. His passing numbers are decent. They're pedestrian at best. He's not a big passing quarterback. The Eagles are who they are. They run the football, but they are an aggressive running team. They go for a lot of 4th downs. And especially when it's 4th and short, they almost always picked it up because of that play, that rugby scrum that they use, which probably will be outlawed next year. So they're not going to be able to use that too much longer. This is football, not rugby, Philadelphia fans. So they have largely built this team and built this record and built this season on beating a bunch of quarterbacks and a bunch of teams that aren't very good. Now, the fact of the matter is that the AFC has better teams than the NFC from top to bottom. And the Eagles have, they didn't have to play the tough teams in the AFC this year in the regular season. They didn't. And then the teams that they played in the NFC side of the regular season, they didn't face a lot of great quarterbacks. The great quarterbacks that they did face, they struggled against. And see, and this is what's not being discussed outside of the Chiefs media, is that the Eagles have not, when they do face a competent quarterback, their defense does not look like the number 1 defense in the league. Their defense is not the number 1 defense, in getting sacks and pressures when they're facing great quarterbacks. So what are we talking about here? They're going up against the best quarterback in the NFL right now, and the argument now is that where is he all time? I personally would put him number 4 all time, Patrick Mahomes, right now. I would put him in Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Peyton, maybe John Elway. I'd probably maybe put John Elway ahead of him. But he's 4th. Maybe 5th if you want to put Peyton there. But he's top 5 all time right now. And you want to tell me that the Eagles, who have not played well against great quarterbacks this year, or even good quarterbacks, you want to tell me that they're going to go out there and shut this guy down? The Chiefs haven't lost by double digits or by 2 scores since in the last 34 games, including the playoffs. Their 3 losses this year have come by a combined 10 points. Patrick Mahomes' losses in the playoffs, overtime to the Patriots. They lost to the Buccaneers when they got waxed by 22 points in a game that was much different than the box score would indicate. If you watch that game, the amount of 3 or 4 touchdown passes that were dropped by the Chiefs in that game, just unbelievable. Just the dumbest thing ever of what happened in that game against the Chiefs. Just receivers dropping balls everywhere, Mahomes running for his life. So, but yeah, they lost that one. And then the only other time they lost by more than that was against the Tennessee Titans when they lost 27-3. That was the last bad loss the Chiefs had, and that was in the beginning of last year, of 2021. So it was a year and a half ago. So the Chiefs don't lose when they do lose, it's a very, very close game. And when games are close, Patrick Mahomes is going to have the ball with the ability to take the lead at any time, just about. I've seen so many picks this week of the Eagles winning by 14, 17, 21 points, and I shake my head and I'm like, where are you getting this information from? How can you logically make this pick? I mean, the Eagles have gone out there and played rummies for quarterbacks, and you think that that's going to give them, the experience. Now, they still got all those sacks. They still stopped those teams, but look, facing the New York Giants and blowing them out, that doesn't prepare you to face the Kansas City Chiefs. Not in the slightest. It doesn't prepare you to face Patrick Mahomes. And there was something else I was when I was watching one of the Tom Grossi's, it was his Super Bowl prediction, and he picked the Chiefs, and he's predicted the Chiefs to win. One of the things he said was like, can somebody please cover Travis Kelce? Do you know why Travis Kelce is always wide open? It's because he's the best route runner in football. And it's not even close. And he runs a lot of option routes. And Mahomes and him are on the same page always. He doesn't always just have, okay, Travis, you run the skinny post here, or Travis, you run this hitch, or Travis, you run this out here. No, it's like a combo tree. Travis, he analyzes the defense just like Mahomes does. And him and Mahomes are on the same page all the time. And so what Kelce sees, and he sees a certain defensive alignment, and he says, you know what, I better cut this route short, or I better run a hook here, or you know what, because I can see that the safety's coming in, he says, I can cut this one over, I can cut it to the sideline because they're helping in the middle of the field. Mahomes sees the same thing too, and he knows where Kelce's going to go based on the defense because him and Kelce are on the same page. It's so much practice. It's not just by playing together, it's by practicing and talking and going through film study over and over and over again. These guys, it pays off for these guys. That's why Kelce is always wide open. It's because he and Mahomes are on the same page on these option routes. It's uncanny. People say, oh, it's the other team, they're just not covering him. No, it's that they know where the defense is going to be, and they run to the place where the defense isn't, and that's where he throws the ball. That's why he's so successful. So it takes a great route runner to always, to be someone who's always open. It's not just luck. It's not just guys. Do you really think that, what did he have? Like 15 catches against the Jaguars? Do you think the Jaguars really wanted Kelce to catch the ball 15 times? If that was there was like, guys, we don't want Jerick McKinnon to beat us, so let's double team him and let's leave Kelce wide open across the middle of the field. Right? Do you really think that was the game plan? No. He's just the best route runner in the NFL, and he's going to get open. That's what he does. So, with the Eagles building up, their resume on less than stellar teams, their number one rated defense and the number of sacks they've got. I mean, they still got all those sacks, but quarterback play is very, very important when it comes to preventing sacks. Eric Eager of formerly of Pro Football Focus and now of Sumer Sports, he has been on this bandwagon for several years about how the quarterback actually the way he plays is more telling on how he's going to on how many sacks he's going to take versus how many he's going to avoid. And when it comes to the tackles, which the Chiefs are the weakest at the tackles, they're incredibly talented, in their interior line. I would consider maybe the second best center in all of football plays for the Chiefs. And then Joe Thuney, one of the best guards, and Trey Smith, one of the best young right guards there. So these guys are tremendous up the middle. Orlando Brown's not a pushover on the left side, but, he's not the greatest either. Andrew Wiley is the weak link at right tackle. But what you do against aggressive pass rushers is, especially when you're the tackles, if they're running up the field to the left, what you do is Andrew Wiley, just keep pushing them to the left. Push them to where they want to go. Don't try to redirect them, because when you try to redirect them, that's when you get in a position to potentially get called for holding and trying to grab, or they change directions. Push him where they want to go. He wants to go left, let him go left. Mahomes will step up and hit somebody in the middle of the field. That's what Mahomes does. He's got pocket awareness to avoid those sacks. When the pocket starts to collapse around him, he'll step up. Now, if he steps up and doesn't make the throw, then they can regroup and get to him. So he's got to step up and make a throw. So, the Eagles having this many games that against the subpar competition, I just, again, I'll say it for the third time or fourth time, how many times I've said it, those sacks still count. They still got all of those sacks. They still allowed those few number of yards against them. But on the other side, it wasn't against Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, or heck, even Derek Carr. It was against Daniel Jones and how many other nonsense quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins. I mean, for goodness sake, Kirk Cousins is not a great quarterback. So he's got a great wide receiver. He's not a great quarterback. He doesn't know how to win. Doesn't win games. So I think the Eagles, their totals and their statistics have been built up against inferior teams. It's like when a team in the NCAA tournament, from maybe a mid-major, or maybe a not even a mid-major, but they get to the NCAA tournament with like a 27-2 record, and they've beaten all the really poor schools in their conference because they're the only good school in their conference. And they get to the NCAA tournament and they face a bubble team in the first round, from the SEC or from the Big 12 or from the Big East or something. And the bubble team wins. And we're all shocked, like, oh, this team that just almost ran the table, and we finally give them, like Murray State, and we finally give them their props, and then they get to the NCAA tournament and they piss down their leg. Why is that? It's because they got to that record against inferior competition. And that's what the Eagles have. They've gotten to this point with inferior competition. So all these things that all these analysts say when they make claims that the Eagles are the best team, they'll say the Chiefs have the best player, but the Eagles have the best team. I disagree. I completely disagree with that. The Eagles are not the best team. Based on what? Based on a flawed metric of their record? We know who they've beaten. They haven't beaten anybody. Their best win was against the 49ers when they didn't have a quarterback. I mean, the 49ers were a great football team without a quarterback. Didn't have a quarterback in that game. Of course the Eagles are going to win that game. The Texans would have won that game. The Bears would have won that game against the 49ers. I think the Bears did beat the 49ers this year, didn't they? I think in week 1, didn't they beat the 49ers? Again, any given Sunday. So, on the Chiefs side of the ball, Uh, the thing that will concern me a little bit is sometimes the Chiefs, do allow big gaps or gashes against them, in the run game. We saw that when the Jaguars played. Now, the Jaguars didn't run as much, but they still broke off decent runs here and there. If the Eagles are good in doing that and keep the game close, that is a cause of concern that I do have. But again, if you don't have the ability to throw the ball to the right side and throwing the ball and you can only throw one way, you know how to play against that. You should be able to bring an extra defender in the box to play against the run. That's my opinion. And now if they line up and beat you on the run against your best, so be it. That's what happens. It's football. But the Chiefs are not pushovers when it comes to when it comes to the defensive line. And on their offensive line is what we talked about. They're going up against all these, what I just said earlier about the number of sacks that the defensive line has for the Eagles. 4 players with 12 plus sacks, and then this other guy, I forget his name, but he had like 8 sacks. And there's Ndamukong Suh, the dirtiest player in the history of the league, who spells their guys in the middle. The thing that you have to consider when it comes to the defensive line of the Eagles going up against when they're going to try to beat the offensive line of the Chiefs lead the league in pass rush win rate for offensive linemen. They are number 1 in the NFL. What that means is that when they're going up against their counterpart on the defensive line, our offensive lineman, the Chiefs' offensive lineman, wins that matchup more than anybody else in the league. And the Chiefs have gotten up to 3rd fewest sacks in the league. So again, this is not the Tennessee Titan offensive line. This is not the Cincinnati Jaguars offensive line that had 3 people on injured reserve or whatever. The Chiefs are no pushovers there. Like I said, Andrew Wiley's the weak link, but there's ways to scheme around that. Put a tight end. Put Noah Gray over there to help out with that. Put Jody Forts in there and chip those guys. And then you have Jerick McKinnon, who's one of the best run blocking or pass blocking running backs. There we go. That was a mouthful. He's one of the best pass blocking running backs in the league, even for his size. So I think the Chiefs are going to score early and get up, and they're going to force Philadelphia to play a game that they don't want to play, which is passing the ball, which is going to play right into the Chiefs' hands because the Chiefs' secondary, which is so much improved than it was at the early part of the season, that's going to be a case where the Chiefs are going to have a tremendous advantage. And I think the Eagles are going to play with a little nervous energy because they haven't been here. At least this iteration, only 2 players on the whole roster were there the last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, which was 6 years ago. So Jason Kelce was one of them. This is a brand new team, and the Chiefs have still a lot of players that won the Super Bowl in 2019, and a lot of players that are on the team from 2020 as well. So the Chiefs have the experience edge massively here, and Nick Sirianni is a good up and coming coach, but when your feet is put to the fire, how are you going to react? How are you going to respond? And some guys wilt under the biggest pressure, or at least they get more conservative. And it'll be interesting to see what they do. People keep saying how to start the game off, the Eagles are going to do something weird like an onside kick, or they're going to try to go deep on the first play. Look, the best chance the Eagles have to win is to play their game and to continue running the football and limit the amount of times Patrick Mahomes has the ball. If the Chiefs get 9 possessions, which is not a lot, they will win the game. If they get 9 possessions, the Eagles have their defense. Like I said, it's not terrible. It's not a bad defense. Okay, I mean they're still a good defense. But the Chiefs get 9 possessions, they're scoring on 6 of those. They're going to score on 2/3 of their drives. Now, is that 6 touchdowns? I would say probably like 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals on those drives, which would be 34 points. 34 points would win this game. That's not going to be my pick, but I'll get to that here in a second. with an incredibly talented defensive line, which I said I kind of been blasting them by not playing anybody, but still the defensive line is good, and how aggressive they are. Andy Reid's going to open up his bag of tricks, and we're going to go back and see the screen game come back, which to Jerick McKinnon and Pacheco, who's been really good at catching the ball over the past month or so. This is going to be a situation where the Chiefs can use the aggressiveness and the inexperience of the Eagles against them. And it can pick up big chunks of plays. They may not have to depend on Travis Kelce, running wide open down the middle of the field. When they can just get the ball to McKinnon on a screen pass, he's going to pick up 25 yards every time he touches the ball. So I don't expect the Chiefs wide receivers to do a whole lot in this game because the Eagles corners are good. Smith-Schuster is definitely playing. He's a possession type receiver. If Valdez-Scantling can get behind the corners, I'm not so concerned about the safeties. I think the Chiefs could get a few big plays over the top with Valdez-Scantling, who had a big game last week, obviously. But he played a role last week that was not his typical role, which is more of a possession receiver instead of the guy looking for the big play. And ironically, his catches led to big plays on run after catch, which is, which he doesn't typically do in amongst other defenders. He's usually doing that in open space, running down the sideline. Special teams is going to obviously play a part. Both teams have good kickers. I think Butker is finally overall his issues he had earlier this year. Now he's playing on the same field again where he got hurt in week 1. But I don't think you'll have the same turf from week 1. I think it'll be definitely will be a Super Bowl field. The wild card is the officiating, and Carl Cheffers is the head ref. Now it's not Cheffers' crew, but Cheffers lasted a Super Bowl in 2020, and that was when the Chiefs lost to the Buccaneers, and Cheffers set a record for the amount of flags that crew threw in the first half of a game of the Super Bowl. And they all went against the Chiefs. So now, again, if you go back and watch that video, my only viral video that I have on YouTube, by the way, like 40,000 views. Viral for me, 40,000, not a ton of views for most channels, but it is for my channel. The referees were not the reason why the Chiefs lost the game. I think poor officiating maybe led to 4 points that Tampa got that they would have gotten that they wouldn't have. There was that one at the end of the first half where they probably would have got a field goal, but there was the pass interference. It was a completely bogus call on Matthew in the end zone right before the half. But again, that was really the only difference in my opinion in what could have been. So how do I see this game going? Well, I've been kind of hinting at that along the way here. I've never been more confident about a playoff game for the Chiefs than this game since the Chiefs played the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round last year. And we all saw that. Now, that's just my gut talking. I could be wrong. Absolutely. But no, I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to get out to a 35-7 lead, early in the third quarter against the Eagles. They very well could. I can definitely see a path for that. But I think the Chiefs are going to be up by 2 scores at halftime, and I think they extend that lead in the third quarter and run away and hide and basically play even football until the game's over. I don't see the Eagles winning this game. I see a path how they could, but I don't see Patrick Mahomes playing a bad game. People talk about how his Super Bowl numbers aren't great. We know his numbers against the Buccaneers, you have to look at beyond the box score. It was circumstance at best. He was running for his life because he was behind a makeshift offensive line. I mean, it is what it is. And he did everything he could to try to will his team, to win that game. And he didn't. I'm going to show a video here since I get my prediction so I'll get to it in just a second. But so let's get back to my thoughts on the prediction. Yeah, I think the Chiefs kind of run away and hide in the second half. And I think I do believe the Chiefs are going to get up, and by doing so, they're going to force the Eagles to play a game that they don't want to play, which is from behind, which will play right into the Chiefs' defense. I think the Chiefs will get a couple turnovers in this game, with the Eagles getting a little overly aggressive. Well, those turnovers could be on downs, and they could be just interceptions or fumbles. Regardless, I look at a turnover on downs as a turnover, even though it doesn't count that way in the box score, because the field position is so important in that regard. I just think the Eagles are going to get overly aggressive, and it's going to come back and bite them. And I just don't think that they're equipped to beat a team as complete as the Chiefs, and to beat a team that has the best quarterback in the league. I mean, playoff football is usually pretty simple. The best quarterback typically wins. So, we could look at that even through here. Did the best quarterback win all these matchups? Maybe not the Vikings and Giants game. But everywhere else, I would say yes, the better quarterback won. Absolutely. So, all right. So, final score predictions. I think the Chiefs I think sometime in the third quarter, the Chiefs are up. I think the Chiefs lead at halftime 24 to 14 or 24 to 7. I think they're going to be up by a decent score like that. And I think they extend that to 31-14 in the third quarter. And then I think they get another touchdown on a turnover or something. Well, put them in field position to go over 38 points and make it look like it's going to be. And I think the Eagles are going to get a garbage touchdown. My official score prediction: Kansas City 38, Philadelphia 21. I have the Chiefs winning by 17 points. You think I'm silly? You think I'm crazy? I mean, 38-21. It's how I see it. I see the Chiefs scoring somewhat at will. I see them scoring on six of their drives. That would be 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals. No, 5 touchdowns and a field goal. I don't think the Eagles are going to keep the Chiefs out of the end zone. I don't see how it's going to happen. The Bengals are a much more complete team. They're more equipped to handle the Chiefs, and that's why you saw the Chiefs struggle with them. Struggle to finish drives off. I don't think they're going to struggle. Not again the Super Bowl. Not with everything on the line. Andy Reid is too good. He's 24-6 when he has 10 plus days to prepare for a game. I'm sorry. That's, what is that, 80%? Is that right? 24 out of 30? I think that's 80%. Or it's close, or 83%. I think it's 83%. So, whatever the math is there. I'm not a math person. My son is. So, that's my official prediction. Chiefs 38, Eagles 21. Who's the MVP? Well, I mean, if the Chiefs score 5 touchdowns, probably 4 of them are passing. Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP. So, unless it's something where, Pacheco runs for 220 yards and 3 touchdowns, I mean, the easy money is on the quarterback to win the MVP. Low-key MVP, I think it's probably going to go to Frank Clark. I think Frank Clark is going to have a big game, especially in that run game. Probably won't have the stats in this game, but he's going to be incredibly important on setting the edge on when it comes to that read option that they run. I think Frank Clark is going to get 2 sacks in this game of Jalen Hurts and is going to force a fumble. So that's what I think. So thanks for watching this video. I do have something I do want to show. Some of you may have seen this before. I gotta find it. I've got a... Okay, here it is. So there was a TikTok that was made, and I'm not on TikTok, but it was posted on YouTube of Patrick, of, you know, kind of what happened in the 2020 Super Bowl. So these guys, they made a mock video of it, and I'm going to show it here to you. You've probably seen this, but I think it's absolutely hilarious. So Patrick Mahomes be like this. So let's go ahead and
get more pressure.
So
a laser beam.
throws the ball, hits the receiver in the head.
Here's Mahomes from 3rd and 19. Complete through the hand.
And all the officials trying to tackle him before the flag zone.
Mahomes.
I think that is absolutely incredible.
Get more pressure.
I just want to watch
a
it.
laser beam. Here's Mahomes from 3rd.
Look at that. That's like that pass was curl over the ground. I mean, it's so accurate. And then here he goes. He gets away from the guys and what's he do? Behind the back. Now the funny thing is that behind the back play, he talks about how that's something that he has in his repertoire and he could bring it out. Now he did say don't expect to see it in the Super Bowl, which makes me wonder we might see that in the Super Bowl. So anyway, thanks for watching my video. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this, and I will talk to you later. See you guys.